What did you gain, what did you learn from the Savannah State game last night?
Well, what the coaching staff and I have been doing is been discussing our strengths and weaknesses and how to develop greater strengths. And in the game against Savannah State, in the first half, we moved the ball extremely well, had 12 assists on 14 made field goals. If we could somehow get the players to understand that's the style of basketball that we want to play, and we scored 67 points. So we'd like to average 70 or more. 75 would be the ideal. However, in the second half, we only scored 31. We ended up with 10 turnovers in the second half. We had 9 turnovers in 12 possessions at one time. That's certainly not what we want. And our players have to kind of understand that the opponent, although they would take credit for some of our mistakes, that they forced those, a lot of it was based on the decisions that we made that allowed them to force the turnovers. So we've got to make better choices. We made very good choices in the first half. You got to try to develop the skill to do it for 40 minutes, not for 10 or 20, 30. You got to try to do it for the whole game. And it's not that you're not going to make some mistakes, but we went into the game only averaging 10.5 turnovers. And we ended up with 16. So if you take back 6 of those turnovers and we shoot a reasonably good percentage of 50%, that's 6 more points. That would have given us 75 points. I would be much happier today. But you got to break it up into the categories of first half did a good job, executed, second half not as good.
Would you credit the shooting percent, would you credit that to the extra pass maybe, or finding the good looks, or is it just shot selection, or how would you assess the field goal percent for you guys?
We got good shots. We were not anxious. Our focus is really on the mental part of the game. We need our players to develop a greater understanding of what will work consistently well. And what works consistently well is playing together, being connected. And maybe the perfect example is last night, I was yelling from the bench the other length of the court. We fouled, and our guys, the other team was huddling, and we were walking around. Each guy probably thinking to himself, oh man, I made that mistake. They're in their own mind rather than pulling together at that time, because they had just cut like a 24-point lead to 12. And guys start to think about what they need to do. What really needs to happen is you get together, you huddle and say, hey, let's get this back at the other end. Let's run this, get this shot for this guy. And that guy then turns around and says, yeah, I'll make it. And he does, and you execute.
So who's the leader that can do that? Because that takes, there's got to be someone out there who's got that mentality.
Yeah. Right now we don't have that person. Primarily for lack of experience. You know, Ryan Brown and Gary Sadams never played that role before.
Right.
Not in high school, not in college. You know, when we gathered as a team last year and some voice needed to be heard, it was always one voice. Actually two. Two seniors, Duran Scott and Julian Gamble. Those are the guys who spoke up. Now, Garius is very quiet, and Ryan is very, very talkative. But he's not a point guard. He's not the guy that, you know, barks out what we're going to run. And he's never done that in his career, so it's hard to just ask a guy to start doing that in his senior year of college. The closest we have are actually the 2 freshmen. Manu, who's a little quiet but really understands the role of a point guard, and Davon, who's got a lot of leadership qualities but has never really been the point guard. So Davon is willing to speak up, and he's doing a good job of that. Manu is starting to assert himself more and more. So hopefully the two of them will take on that role, and that'll help us not only this year but in the future.
What are you expecting from Lasalle?
Well, Lasalle is got two different teams. They've got their big team that powers the ball inside, and they've got their small team that plays with basically 4 perimeter players, 4 guards, and they break you down off the dribble, shooting threes and dribble drives. So we've got to prepare for both of them.
What are you seeing with Tanya in his development and maybe how he's handled it not being the start that he would have liked? How are you seeing it maybe in practice? And
well, my message to Tanya has been, you got to get in the gym on your own and spend more time. It's about hours. You lack a lot of experience. So he's supposed to be in there at 2 o'clock today. I hope he's in there with Coach Conklin. And we don't start until 3 o'clock, so he should get an hour's work. And what I would love to see is when we're done today, he goes back in the gym and grabs one of the managers and says, hey, rebound for me for another hour. Until a player, not just Tanya, but any player, makes a total and unconditional commitment to being the best that he can be, it's very hard to improve as much as you would like, because it takes hours and hours and hours. And the players that I've coached in the past that have enjoyed the greatest success are the gym rats. The guys who are always in the gym. They love being in there. We've got a couple of those guys in there right now, but they're not eligible to play games.
Do you have any, who of the guys you have now, who's
Probably Ryan is the one that's been in the gym the most.
Mm-hmm.
Before Deandre Burnett got hurt, it was him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just the transition with Deandre, I know that's kind of his, what he's known for. How's he doing? Also, maybe what are some things that he's able to pick up on when he watches games?
Well, he's doing great as a sideline reporter. He sits there on the side. He's very into it. He's trying to figure things out. I made a point to tell the team the other day that Michael Fernandez, who is a walk-on, but who has been practicing extremely hard, and the way you could recognize that is Deandre started cheering for him. Because every good play that Michael made, Deandre was like patting him on the back and giving him high fives. Man, that was a heck of a play. Great effort on that play, hustling all over the court. And my message to the team was, you know, we need to play as a team the way Michael's practicing right now, with just great effort and enthusiasm. And it's amazing the results you get when you do.
You just talk about your coaching style and, you know, just being positive. Maybe, you know, the start, they've had some tough losses. You guys have had some tough losses. But I assume in practice, you're staying positive. You can talk about your coaching style with that and maybe your belief that that is the way to get the most out of the guys.
Well, yeah, you have two options. And as a teacher and as an educator, I look at the basketball court as my classroom. I wouldn't go into a classroom and start cursing out my students if they made mistakes. If I asked a question, they didn't know the answer, or I gave a test and someone didn't do well. I would try to review the materials with them, teach them better. I would take the responsibility that, no, this is probably my fault. I didn't communicate well enough to this student to get him to understand the material so he could do better on the test. So that's where we are right now as a team, trying to direct them properly, give them the proper information that they need. You know, one of the examples is in our scouting report, we'll let a team know, like Drell Eddy from Virginia Tech, he's a three-point shooter, an outstanding three-point shooter. And we can't allow him to get open threes. The threes he takes has to be contested. And if we contest them and he still makes them, then that's to his credit. But at least we've done our job. There are other players, kid from Central Florida, Sykes, he's a driver. And if we allow him to drive to his left hand because he's left-handed, that's his best. And if we don't take away his best, he's going to have a big night. We didn't take away his best. He had a very, very good game. Central Florida wins. You have to be able to apply the information to every game situation. So when a player is developing the mental side of the game, when we're watching video, he's got to be listening very, very attentively as to what are the coaches telling me about my matchup? What are the coaches telling me about this team? Are they a fast break team? Are they a three-point shooting team? Are they a driving team? Are they a big team that posts up a lot? And even throughout a game, during timeouts, like last night, I told them the Savannah State team has starters who drive and their three-point shooters come in off the bench. So early in the game, we need to take away the drive. But as they substitute, and we told them 10, 20, 30, and 12 are the three-point shooters. Identify them because we're going to be in zone a lot. We've had to adapt our defensive philosophy to zone coverages, and they came in and started shooting threes. Right? One kid, number 10, made 2 bombs. And said, well, that's what he does. If we make him a driver, we'll be successful. If the drivers, we make three-point shooters, we'll be successful. But if we allow the drivers to drive and the three-point shooters to shoot threes, we're giving them the best and we're going to struggle.
When you say, I mean, it seems like that some of the things missing are leadership, gym rats, leadership and just people who just can't get enough basketball. Is that something that you can, how do you instill that? Isn't that,
Well,
they just come with that or they don't?
Here's the thing. When I talk about leadership, I'm really referring to on the court, during game action leadership. Mm-hmm. There's all different kinds of leaders. Garius Adams is a very quiet and good leader. Ryan Brown is a very vocal and he's a good leader. That's not enough. You need a quarterback who's calling the plays and barking out directions. So that responsibility normally falls on your point guard. So last year, you had Duran and Shane Larkin. Now you have Davon Reed and Manu. They're inexperienced. They're freshmen. Shane Larkin didn't do it when he was a freshman. He really deferred to the upperclassmen and Malcolm Grant. It's your job.
You see Angel as that kind of guy?
Angel's already that kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
You see it in practice every day. I'm sure he did it at Kansas State, and he's developing it now. And in his case, he's actually helping Manu develop it. He's telling Manu, hey, when Tanya comes in the game, let him know you're going to look for him the next time down the floor. The moment you tell a player, I'm looking for you, his antenna goes up and his focus is better. If you just come down the floor and make a pass to him, he might not be ready for it. I didn't think you were going to throw it to me. So leadership comes in a lot of different ways. As far as being as a gym rat, all the guys think they're gym rats because they spend a lot of time in the gym. The difference between a gym rat is there are guys who come to practice, they're there at the beginning of the practice, they're there at the end of the practice, but they're not there much before and they're not there much after. The guys who are really true gym rats, they're in there all the time. You see them there. In their free time,
that's where they go.
What?
In their free time,
that's where they go. In their free time, they're in the gym shooting. Mm-hmm. And it's what makes them so good. Because, as I told the players, you have to feel like you deserve victory. That you've spent so much time working on your craft and you are so confident in your abilities that you think you're better than the opponent every night. And it doesn't matter who the opponent is. Right? There are guys, when they take the court against the highest level players, they think they're going to outplay them. They don't think, this team's ranked in the top 10, so what? I played with the ultimate guy like that. Ernie DiGregorio. Did you ever hear of him? Mm-hmm. Did you ever hear of him? Ernie DiGregorio came from North Providence, Rhode Island, which rarely produced any good college basketball players. He was not that highly recruited. because he was basically an unknown, and back then there was not a lot of exposure for a player like him. Not that many opportunities, no AAU ball. He signed with Providence College, and he thought he was better than everybody we played. We played in Madison Square Garden against South Carolina that had 5 NBA players. He thought he was better than all of them. He was. He wasn't just thinking it. He was better. He was NBA Rookie of the Year, first team All-American, because he had spent so much time playing this game. His skills were honed so well. He woke up at 6 o'clock every morning and shot for over an hour in his driveway. He'd shovel his driveway during the winter so that he could shoot. After practice in college, after practicing from 3 to 6, he went home, ate dinner from, he lived in North Providence, so he went home, ate, his mom was cooking, went to the gym, went to what it was the boys club, and played from 7 to 10 at night. He used to pay 10-year-olds that would be in the gym 10 cents each to guard him. And there'd be a group of 10 little kids, and they'd play full court, 1 versus 10. They try to steal the ball from him, they try to, quadruple team him, and he ran up and down the floor for 3 hours playing basketball. So when he got on the court against college All-Americans, he said, I'm better than these guys. He led Providence College to the Final Four in 1973, and if Marvin Barnes does not hurt his knee in the semifinals, they probably win the national championship.
Got to bring him back for your team. You need another Eddie G.
Anything else?
Thank you.